Hey guys, Coach Girders here with another 6th grade Heritage Studies Ancient Civ Cultural Geography video for you guys. This is going to be part 2 of the first section. So I think it's going to be titled Rome B, or Rome Part B, of my Unit 5 in my 6th grade Heritage Studies class. So make sure you have those notes out, guys, so you can follow along as we are working through the next section. So picking off, the Republic was in jeopardy, just getting kind of too big for it to be controlled. And this is going to lead into internal struggles, or maybe even show those internal struggles that had already been happening, and lead to a civil war, the first of several in this era. As corruption in the Senate and the Assembly spread, commoners found a new hero in Marius, a general who organized the first professional Roman army. So what does the word professional mean? I look forward to talking about that with you guys as we get to class, so just think about that. He allowed the poor to sign up for his army, who received payment for fighting. There's a hint right there. Many other generals followed his lead, which led to soldiers being more loyal to their general than to Rome itself. A war initially breaks out in Asia Minor, present-day Turkey. The Senate selects Sulla to lead the army, while the tribal assembly selected Marius, which led to a civil war between the two. Sulla eventually won. He made himself dictator to reorganize the government before banishing Marius, but he would step down shortly afterwards. Dictator here means you assume all of the powers of the government for yourself. So as a military dictator, you're like a king in that aspect, or an emperor. You can do whatever you want and nobody can question you. Nobody has any checks on your power. That's important. He did step down, which is a good thing. So we got Marius and Sulla. The Triumvirate in a 60 BC, just like a tricycle has 3 wheels, triumvirate, like a triangle has 3 sides, 3 angles. Triumvirate, you can get 3 people in charge. Seeing how easily power could be won, certain powerful men tried to establish their control over Rome. 3 men succeeded by working together and formed the first triumvirate. There'd be Crassus, who was a wealthy general, Pompey, who was a general and a senator, and then Julius Caesar, who was immensely popular and successful general and a senator. Crassus soon died, and Pompey and the Senate, trying to solidify power for themselves, turned against Caesar, leading to another civil war. Caesar won and would declare himself dictator over Rome. Eventually, that would be titled Dictatoria Perpetua, which means perpetual dictator or dictator for life. Crassus, Pompey, and then Julius Caesar, probably the most famous Roman in world history. There's Julius Caesar here. I'll let you guys figure out what happened. We'll talk about that a little bit more once we get there, but we're going to do a character study on him. The Roman Empire, 31 BC to 476 AD. Octavian, Julius Caesar's nephew, defeated Mark Antony for control of Rome and began reorganizing the government again. He never called himself a dictator, but went by other names such as Princeps, which means first citizen, and Augustus eventually, which means revered one. He became known as Caesar Augustus. This is how he is labeled in Luke 2, verse 1. His reign led to a period of growth, peace, and prosperity, known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. And the Pax Romana went on for about 200 years, and it ended in went on for about 150 years, and it ended in 180 AD with the death of the philosopher king Marcus Aurelius. So you got Pax Romana is where the Roman Empire reaches its height in terms of its size and power, thanks a lot to Caesar Augustus. During the Pax Romana, fathers were in charge of the education of their children, hired by private tutors or by themselves. They studied reading, writing, math for basics, and then the advanced learning was Greek and Latin, history, geography, astronomy, and literature. Boys became official citizens at age 16, which means they could vote or run for the Senate or join the army. Reading was a favorite pastime, and all Romans read Cicero's speeches and essays, Virgil's poetry. He's the guy that's going to write the Aeneid, tells the story of Aeneas, and then Livy's histories as well of the empire. Cultural achievements. Roman life was heavily influenced by Greek culture, thanks to who? Alexander the Great, you're right, which was seen in art, architecture, literature, etc., that Hellenistic culture, classical culture. The greatest Roman art achievements were in architecture, just like in Greece. Even though Romans built for practical purposes, many buildings are beautiful and awe-inspiring as well. They were the first to use a form of concrete, which to them was a mixture of gravel, sand, and mortar to build, and they would usually coat it with a better-looking material when completed like marble. This would make it very strong as well as very aesthetically pleasing. The most famous buildings in Rome, ancient buildings, are the Pantheon and the Colosseum. The Pantheon right here, Pantheon Pantheos, it's the temple of all gods originally. Now it is a site of a reoccurring, it's a Christian church. It's one of the oldest operating Christian churches in the world. That's what it looks like from the inside. You see the oculus right here, which is very impressive. It's also the burial place of several famous people. And then, of course, the Colosseum. And the Arch of Titus we talked about in Unit 2 that shows the Roman general Titus's conquering of Jerusalem in the background here. It's a good view right here of what it looks like. So you see the underground tunnels where they would keep the animals and they keep the prisoners, keep the gladiators, used for fighting here. At its height, it could hold about 60,000 people. They could also flood the bottom of it and make it stop up the holes around there, fill up the bottom, make it used for very small naval battles as well. Religion. Many Romans adopted the gods of the Greeks, but gave them Roman or Latinized names. Heracles became Hercules, Zeus became Jupiter, Hades became Pluto, Poseidon became Neptune. This is where we get the name of our planets from. But two other Greek philosophies, not religions, philosophies became important. You have Epicureanism and you have Stoicism. Epicureanism, belief that everything is simply matter, no gods, no afterlife. Pursue pleasure, avoid pain, eat, drink, and be merry, for your days are few. Go off and have a good time. Enjoy the things that you do as much as you can, because it's not going to last forever. And then Stoicism, which doing one's duty led to happiness, free from emotions, value, courage, justice, obedience, and logic. Make sure that you do your job, whatever that is. If it's a senator, if it's a general, if it's a banker, if it's a lawyer, do your job to the best of your ability, and you'll draw some sort of pleasure out of that. Also, let common sense and reason rule, not emotion. So, Hercules, Epicurus, and then a famous Stoic, Epictetus. Christianity in the Roman world. So as we read through Luke 2, where it talks about Caesar Augustus, we see God's perfect timing and plan at work. We know the story of Jesus eventually coming from humble beginnings. He becomes a preacher and the founder of a new religion charged with blasphemy and heresy, was brought before the Roman governor of Judea, Pontius Pilate, to stand trial. Pilate did not want to execute Jesus because he couldn't really find that he did anything wrong. However, he did not want to lead to another revolt for the Jews against Rome. He gave Jesus over to them to be executed. And after Jesus' death, the Christians were heavily persecuted by both the Jews and the Romans, and that's going to continue for a long time. His famous painting of Jesus standing before Pilate. After Jesus' death, the persecution continued and increased. Emperor Nero was a particularly nasty man towards Christians, using them as a scapegoat for a fire that destroyed most of the city. He imprisoned, tortured, and executed thousands of believers during his reign. Some rulers sent captured Christians into the arenas like the Colosseum, where they were going to be killed by gladiators and lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. In the face of this persecution, the Apostle Paul, found in Acts 9, made 4 separate missionary journeys to several parts of the world to spread the gospel, and this persecution would continue at large until 313 AD. And all the while, the Christian faith, while being persecuted against, continued to grow. There's Nero. Good view of the Colosseum. And this is a monument that still stands at the Colosseum today in remembrance of the thousands of Christians that were executed there. Paul, writing his letters in his missionary journeys, this out in different colors here. The collapse of the Roman Empire as we know it. Diocletian, 284 to 305, another Christian hitter, divided his power in half, believing the empire was too big to be ruled by one man. He kept power in the east and gave the west to somebody else. Constantine takes the throne in 306, becomes a Christian, and issues the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, which legalized Christianity throughout the empire and brought the persecution to a stop. In order to finalize what was being taught about Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, and the Bible, and overall theology, there was a meeting called the Council of Nicaea, organized by Constantine, which helped to authenticate and finalize the overall beliefs of theology of the Christian faith. According to legend, Constantine, before a battle, saw a cross up there and said, "If you paint this on your shields and you do this for me, you will have victory." He does so, they end up winning a big victory, and he becomes a Christian. It's also responsible for the foundation of one of the truly great cities of the ancient world, Constantinople, but we'll get to that in the next unit. Now known as Istanbul. As what the divided empire looked like, which we'll get into when we talk about the Byzantines, the Western Roman Empire, and the Eastern Byzantine Empire. And here you go, your mini quiz. So go ahead and be ready to answer and defend your answers here for Google Classroom for your grade, and also to be able to discuss it in class. I look forward to talking with you guys about it.